Well, Lord Wolfson has concluded this very long report, 200 pages. It'll be published publicly, I think, tomorrow. And he has analysed whether or not the UK Parliament and UK government are able to effectively control our borders, amongst other things, while being inside the ECHR. And the conclusion he's reached, after very careful analysis, is that actually we cannot, because judges both in Strasbourg and here in the UK can use the ECHR to override legislation passed by our elected parliament and can stop the government from doing things using injunctions under the ECHR if they, the judges, think ECHR articles are being infringed. Now, these articles were written 75 odd years ago for very good reasons in the aftermath of World War II, but they're very vaguely worded. Things like the right to a private and family life. Well, what does that mean? It means in practice whatever a judge happens to say it means, and it's now being interpreted unbelievably widely in ways that allow, for example, dangerous foreign criminals to stay in the country when they should be deported on really unbelievably flimsy grounds. And it stopped things like the Rwanda scheme the last government had to remove illegal immigrants immediately upon arrival. And we think we need to prioritise border control. We think we need to prioritise protecting veterans, which are also affected. And we think we need the democratically elected parliament to be sovereign. So when the public elect a parliament and elect a government, they can actually do what
they say. OK, sure.
Right, exactly.
As you know, many lawyers, and you'd expect them to say this, will say, well, you know what, it's not going to work. It's not going to make much practical difference because of the way in which English common law works. Let's leave that to the side for
Well, of course, common law can be overridden by statute. So when the parliament passes an act of parliament, that overrides common law.
Let me put another objection to you, which is your former Conservative Foreign Secretary, Sir Malcolm Rifkin, said, I'm not suggesting we should completely leave the ECHR. The proper approach is to suspend our recognition of the European Convention so far as it affects questions of illegal migration. Why do you need to go the whole hog?
Well, unfortunately, in the way the ECHR is set up, there isn't an option, there isn't a mechanism either to temporarily suspend your membership or to sort of disapply or disregard the ECHR for bits of policy, like specifically immigration. You're either in it or you're out. Okay. All kinds of people, including actually Jack Straw and David Blunkett, former Labour Home Secretaries, have pointed out the problems we're now having with the ECHR. Jonathan Sumption, a former Supreme Court Justice, says we should come out. Richard Eakins, the Professor of Law at Oxford, says the same thing. There are growing views that we should do this.
Yeah, we've heard lots of those voices on this programme. How concerned are you about where this leaves the Good Friday Agreement? The Irish Taoiseach, the Deputy Prime Minister Simon Harris, said at the start of last month that ECHR is a fundamental safeguard in the Good Friday Agreement. It is a core part of the delicate balances in that agreement. The ECHR guarantees cannot be negotiated away, despite what some politicians might claim.
So there's a whole section in Lord Wolfson's report specifically on this, as you'd expect, because unlike, say, reform, we have actually thought this through properly. Now, the ECHR itself is not referenced in the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. It is referenced in the associated multi-party agreement, which is a political agreement between parties. But it doesn't say in that the UK as a whole has to say in the ECHR. It says that ECHR type rights have to apply to devolved institutions in Northern Ireland, and that can be legally done while the UK as a whole leaves. And Lord Wolfson advises on that in detail.
Let me put to you a final objection to your position. This comes from a former Conservative Party bigwig. This is George Osborne speaking on his Political Currency podcast last year.
For me, this is just a really impossible thing for Britain to do, and something, a Conservative Party that said it was going to withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights, I could not vote for. And because it's breaking the rule of law that we've helped establish around the world. It's something that Conservative governments did so much to establish. And I'm just fed up with the Conservative Party wanting to leave things and break up international alliances.
Briefly, Mr. Philp, what do you say to him?
Well, look, I think public opinion and political opinion has changed a lot, even in the last year. We've got a borders crisis, the largest number of illegal immigrants crossing the Channel in history, 20,000 foreign criminals wandering around our streets after release from prison, not being deported. So people, I think, now understand we have to get back control of our borders and restore parliamentary sovereignty. I don't agree with what George said just then. I think maybe he's changed his mind since he said that.
It was last October.
I know a lot of parliamentarians, Conservative parliamentarians, if you'd have asked them a year ago about leaving the ECHR, they would have said no chance, like George Osborne. But they have now changed their mind because this border crisis is so acute, and we have to restore parliamentary sovereignty and democratic accountability, because when the public vote for something,
they need to be able to get it.
They expect it to happen.
Chris Philp, Shadow Home Secretary, thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you.